Good morning, love leaders. It's Dr. Shanon. We are in our What Do Healthy Couples Do? Encouraging tips weekly. Thank you for coming in and tuning in again this morning. And we have a great healthy tip for you because we are searching for not what especially needs to be repaired in not so healthy relationships, but we also highlight what is actually working out there with healthy couples. From my experience in working with couples for the 30 years that I have had the privilege of doing that, good morning, but also from the research. And here's a biggie today. Healthy couples, while under fire, become each other's teammates and friends. They reach for each other, they stay connected and tackle the problem rather than tackling each other. That's it, guys. Listen, research says that the couples that are able to adjust mentally, emotionally, and relationally to the temperature of the circumstance and are able to roll with the punches together as a team experience a higher level of relationship satisfaction because they join forces together and they're not in it alone. So when we are under fire, when there are circumstances from the outside pushing in against the situation, rather than the couples becoming dysregulated and then turning on each other, healthy couples have the capacity to use each other as a regulator in the midst of it and join forces and move into this self-protection of the us and begin to have the ability to regulate our emotions with one another, to manage the stress and the unplanned circumstances, and they can move into reason, problem solving, and management of the issue as a team. It's hard to do, I promise. But it's not necessarily if circumstances are going to be beyond your control, because we all know circumstances have a way of being beyond our control. It's what we do in those circumstances. How many of us, and listen, we are stretched so thin as a society that there are so many stressors that we have a capacity to roll with the punches to a point. But because we're on so thin ground and such overload, sometimes when that final tipping the plate circumstance happens, typically we will turn on one another and we'll use each other as each other's punching bags. We take out our stress management on our most loved one. And I promise you, at that point, when we disregard where the eye of the enemy and the focus needs to be, and it becomes on one another, it doesn't allow us to use each other as that soft place to fall, that safe haven. And therefore, we increase the stress of the circumstance because not only is the stressor still there, but now we've added the stressor of that we are in it alone. And we've complicated it with the stress that we feel within the relationship on top of it. But those couples that are able to turn towards and not away, and turn towards seeing each other as a friend in time of storm, Find each other's safe haven approach, the team member concept as comforting. And when we're comforted that we're not alone in it, couples can get really creative and they can even find adventure in it. Listen, I just recently was on a trip, and you know what it's like to be flying these days. Lots and lots of more people, and lots of cancellations and delays and problematics. And my flight slowly was ticking off, from a 1 o'clock departure to then a 3 and a 4 and a 6 and an 8. And finally, 12 hours later, a cancellation. So, anyone in that circumstance sitting in a gate for hours on end, being able to adjust and readjust for every kind of tick as it's pushing back on the time, meaning what's that mean for us now? What's that mean for us now? It was a disaster in slow motion. But when you are able to kind of lean in, what could have been very problematic, because after the cancellation, it meant that I was postponed from even coming in for 24 hours, meaning it was going to cut into my next work day. It turned out to be a very big adventure, an unforeseen plan of getting to spend the night in a town and checking out what that town had to offer for the evening. Now, that very well could have looked very different had that been where we turned on one another rather than join forces and said, let's get creative. And we did. And it was a fun opportunity of adventure. We embraced it as it's beyond our control, so let's have fun anyway. I'm not saying that it's always looking that way, but thank goodness that time was a real success, and it really illustrated for me the differences of what that could have looked like had it not been for both team members being able to lean in and roll with those punches. So, healthy couples under fire turn to each other and see each other as friends and teammates in it together, not against. And so that's what I'm going to leave you with today, love leaders. When you see opportunities of stressors, and you're not going to have to look very far, very wide, and you're not going to have to wait very long for it to show up. Let me just make this so big in the room for you today that it's fresh on your mind, that you can see it as an opportunity to connect in a way of getting creative, seeing your partner as your teammate and friend, and not allowing that really easy opportunity to use your partner as your stress release in the moment. And both couples, both people in that couple can handle stress differently. When one is maybe not in a place of handling it as easy, you can kind of fill that gap for a time. And then you can kind of take turns. And those couples that have the ability to kind of move and adjust of, this is not a moment for me to lose it because my partner is not having an opportune moment. And when those couples can do that, know when they can need to step up to the plate, find their deep resolve, be the steadying Eddie, our partner in that moment, to help that other person, rather than to then turn on them and take out their stress because they're not handling their stress well. So go and be each other's friends in times of oppressive moments when those circumstances really turn beyond your control and you're in it together. Find the fun and adventure that it can be in those moments, even if you use it as a humor relief of, Oh, well, what else can we do? All right, love leaders, go love well. Go be each other's lily pad partners in times of circumstances that are beyond your control, and use it as time to deepening that intimacy and connection and trust. We'll see you next week for your next healthy couple tip.